My parents were born in India with the hot sun, bright colors, and amazing food. I was born in Canada, French Canada, Montreal, with its intriguing history and beautiful architecture. And when I was very young, my family boarded a train that took us for 3.5 days out to Alberta in the west. It was the first time I saw those vast prairies and the majestic Rocky Mountains. I started school in northern Alberta, and I remember this one day. I was 6 years old. The skies were blue, the sun was warm, and I was walking in the schoolyard with Blake, my first and best friend. Blake had just joined our school a week earlier, and since then, we had been inseparable. I had never seen anyone like her, with her white blonde hair and blue eyes. And she had never seen anyone like me, with my glasses. Blake and I played and played and talked and talked and talked. We were this tall. I don't know what we talked about. But on this day, I remember the skies were blue and the sun was warm and Blake was quiet. I started to think she was sick. And then suddenly she stopped, fell onto the ground, and with tears in her eyes, told me, "I can't be your friend anymore. If I'm friends with you, no one else will be friends with me, and that's too hard." The harsh reality of racism. Then she said the strangest thing I have ever heard. She nearly screamed it through her tears. She said, "I don't care if you're green or orange or purple or blue. You're my friend." I had never seen green or orange or purple or blue people before. But as I saw Blake there in a lump on the ground, I could see how much pain she was in. Still, the next day, Blake had lots of people to play with, but not me. I was there on my own. Now, when I think about the impact that day had on my life, it's not Blake's choice, or even the choices of the other children, that stays with me most. What stays with me most is the choices the teachers made. Every day they walked by, they must have seen what was happening, the uniqueness of me and my environment, how often I was there on my own. They must have heard what was happening, the mean words, the chants, the songs against me. Every day they walked by and did nothing. And by doing nothing, they allowed and developed a culture. Now, I'm not being too hard on these teachers. I understand that those teachers and that school were part of a greater social culture. And I also understand that teachers do nothing when they haven't been given the skills or the resources to do something. But what I want you to understand is that culture creates outcomes. And on this day, this culture created the outcome that a beautiful, don't you think? 6-year-old Indian girl was excluded. Now, today I live in Ireland with its rolling hills and myriad trees and hedgerows and foxes at night. I moved here as a young adult, and in many ways I grew up here. I am Indian, and I am Canadian, and I am Irish. I teach my children who are born here that there are no halves or quarters or mixes of people. We are all 100% complete. I am 100% Indian, 100% Canadian, and 100% Irish. To which my older son says, Mom, that's not how percentages work. And all the math nerds in the audience appreciate that. To which I say, yeah, that is exactly how identity works. We are all 100% each of our identities, and that is how identity works. Now, I love my cultures. Being Indian has taught me how to really support a community and cook amazing food. Being Canadian has taught me how to be very polite and follow the rules. Hey? And being Irish has taught me exactly how and when to break those rules and how to jaywalk effectively. I love that my identity is rooted in not one or two, but 3 continents. Because I get to think about culture in a way that most people don't. I get to be conscious about culture. And knowing that culture creates outcomes, I get to be conscious about the kind of culture I want to create and the outcomes that come from it. Are you conscious of your culture and the outcomes you're creating? I find it interesting that while India tries to respond to great tensions between communities, and Canada presents itself as a multicultural mosaic, Ireland presents itself as a singular monoculture, even though there has always been great diversity in Irishness. I often hear ads on the radio for things as different as ham or beer or rugby, where the storyline of the ad is the same. It goes like this. This is what it means to be Irish. You are Irish. We are Irish. And because we are Irish, we eat ham, or drink beer, or watch rugby. All around us, we receive and repeat a very narrow definition of Irishness. So much so that I know Irish people who even sometimes feel trapped by their own experience of our culture. I don't think in Ireland we are conscious enough about our culture and the outcomes we're creating from it. It's like the old story of 2 fish in a pond. One fish says to the other, "Hey, how's the water?" And the second fish replies, "What the heck is water?" The fish that is swimming in its environment, immersed in every action, can't notice what's all around it, the normal. Too many of us receive culture passively, reenact it, and pass it on, without feeling any responsibility for the consequences. And then you meet someone like me, who, because of who I am, must swim through many different ponds, move through several different habitats, just to get through my day. I notice the water. I can think consciously about culture, and I know exactly what kind of culture I want to create. I want to create a culture of respect. Let me take you back to the schoolyard. On that day when the skies were blue and the sun was warm, let me tell you what I think that stunning 6-year-old Indian girl needed. I think she needed 4 things. I think she needed someone to listen to her, someone to empathize, someone to make a connection, and someone to build a relationship. Listening, empathy, connection, and relationship building. Listening would have eased her pain. Empathy would have helped her belong. A connection would have broken her isolation. And a relationship would have given her a future. These 4 behaviors, listening, empathy, connection, and relationship building, would have changed her life. We create culture every day with the behaviors we repeat. And I think if we repeated these 4 behaviors, we would create cultures of respect. Imagine if each of us found a way to repeat regularly these 4 behaviors into our personal living. We would change lives. Imagine if we could create structures that ensured that we systematically repeated these 4 behaviors into our communities and businesses. We would transform the world. I have created a tool to do just that. I call it respect proofing. And I think it will let us systematically change the world. After that day that Blake told me she couldn't be my friend anymore, I went back into what ended up being a pretty long period of exclusion. It would be 8 years before I would meet a girl, Ainsley, with white blonde hair and green eyes, who, maybe because her family culture gave her the courage, but she did not care if anyone never spoke to her again. She became my friend. Ainsley and I are still dear, dear friends today. However, that period of exclusion gave me a power. I am pretty tuned in to noticing when other people feel excluded. And I have discovered something that surprised me. I have discovered that every human I meet, and it doesn't matter if they look like they would belong, every human I meet at some point has felt on the outside. None of us fits in easily. Who we are is simply too great to fit into a box. And at any moment, any one of us needs someone out there who will listen, empathize, connect, and build a relationship with us. At any moment, any one of us needs someone who will consciously create a culture of respect around us. Will you be that person? Don't be that person who walks on by and sees nothing. Do be that person who notices the water. I don't want to change who I am to cross the playground in hopes someone might be friends with me. I want to stand here as I am, hoping you will see me and cross to come over and join me. Come over and join me in my mission to consciously create cultures of respect all around us. I will share with you the tools, and together we will change lives and transform the world.